Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Not bad. Just recovered from fainting, but aside from that, I'm all good.
Fainting like today?
Mm-hmm.
What? Why did you faint?
I don't know. I was just in here doing my normal shit, and I started to think, shit, breathing kind of weird. And I went into the living room and laid down. Turns out I was fainting. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
yeah, that was weird. Never done that before.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like, do you need to go to a doctor?
I'm gonna book something in. Honestly, I think it's too much caffeine, not enough food today. Could be a contributing factor. I didn't really eat a lot.
Might be. Speaking of caffeine, I got my coffee ready to go because this is going to be a fucking big bitch today.
Yeah, I may have just fainted at the sheer size of the album.
And I've got things. If you look, it's like dark in my room because it's already at that. We were really lucky this summer and unlucky because there was so much rain and hurricane shit that it kept the temperatures at least like in the 80s. But that shit's gone, and now we're up in the mid 90s. So I'm trying my best to keep things cool in here, which sucks because I have all my cool Flotsam and Jetsam shit back here, and you can barely even fucking see it. But it's okay.
You can just about make it out.
Doomsday for the Deceiver right here. No Place for Disgrace. Nice. This is the 12-inch maxi single of Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting.
Oh, shit. Nice.
And then When the Storm Comes Down. And then right there, 2 little CDs, Quattro and Drift. Because those things...
Nice.
Well, Quattro only has one vinyl pressing that if you go try to find it, people are selling it for $500. And then Drift doesn't have one at all. But reissue both of those. This is going to be the beginning of the fucking episode. So if you guys know anybody that works at any of those labels, these two... And fuck High as well. Those 3 Flotsam and Jetsam albums. No, the album High. Not Hello. It just reminds me of that Monty Python sketch. It was from one of their albums, actually, where he's like, how would you rate your embarrassment? A, high. B, hello. C, good evening. I always thought that was funny.
That's great.
All right, so what are we doing? Yeah, we probably shouldn't fuck around because we've decided. Hello, this is Cranked and Ranked, everybody. We're actually cranking and ranking a band with a. Why do they have 15 albums, or do my numbers get fucked up?
It's gonna become 15 albums.
Yeah, my little list here because I've made. See, here's the thing. How long have we been doing this podcast for? 4 years? Over 4 years?
Yeah.
I always did shit on paper. And I had everything written down and my shit in order. I decided to move over to the Notes app on my iPhone. And guess what? Show number 1, the numbers are fucked up. It goes from 11 to 13. Why does it do that? I have no idea. I didn't do that. Anyway.
What I've got for me is on my screen. I've got on the left, I've got my notes. In the middle, I've got you, and on the right, I've got Wikipedia open to check shit on the fly.
The one thing that I found is actually kind of cool that the Notes app does. I went to Wikipedia and I copied the discography and pasted it here. And then once I ordered it, there are links that I click on it and it immediately goes to the Wikipedia page for that album. Technology!
That's great. That's
anyway, so yeah, Cranked and Ranked. We're going to be doing, you can see the title, Flotsam and Jetsam. One of the, I'd say one of the best of the non-big 4 thrash bands. I will have to admit that I call them thrash the same way that I call Metallica thrash, because because they did a whole lot of music that isn't really thrash, and even today, it's almost more power metal to me.
Yeah.
Than
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's still thrashy elements, so it's power thrash. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've got 14 albums. They have a 15th one that's coming in a month. But I'll talk about that a tiny bit because they've released, I think, 2 songs from it so far that I've heard.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're doing Flotsam and Jetsam. Go ahead.
We'll talk about that in our second edition of Old Friends New Stuff.
Yes,
which will
yes.
kick off next year. We've decided that's going to be a bi-yearly thing where it'll happen every 2 years.
It's into men and women at the same time.
Yeah.
It's by
Everybody loves you when
you're by. Oh man, that's a good song. We did Living Color years ago, guys. It was a fun episode. Anyway, so and I just decided that, like, I think some people really dig us breaking up large discographies into different parts, but I think some bands, like especially a band like this, where I think you kind of know what you're going to get from us for each part of their discography, and so breaking it up into 2 parts almost seems like a kind of a waste. Where we could just buckle down and speed a little bit through it and do a chunky episode where we do all 14 Flotsam and Jetsam albums. So, but let's hop into it. Where we normally start is where this band came into our lives. Like many people, this band came into my lives because I became a very big Metallica fan, and that was around the time Jason Newsted was in the band. And you would always see stuff written about how he used to be in a band called Flotsam and Jetsam. And I'm like, oh, cool. So the first Flotsam and Jetsam album I ever heard was No Place for Disgrace. And if I remember right, my buddy's probably not going to watch this, but in case he does, I think I remember that he was doing the 8 CDs for a penny thing from Columbia House or BMG or one of those places. And they happened to have No Place for Disgrace. And I guess he was like, he didn't know like what to get. And he was like, is there anything you want me to get you? And I was like, oh, can you get me that Flotsam and Jetsam album? And then he got it for me. And then I had No Place for Disgrace. And I think a year or 2 after that is when Quattro came out, and I was all over Quattro. But and I was a fan through the mid 90s with them, and then like I've said with many bands, I kind of parted ways with a lot of metal for a little tiny chunk of time. And then when I came back, they weren't really doing anything that was like super exciting for me. So it took me a little bit to kind of get on board and like listen to all the stuff that they had been doing. But I would still consider myself a fan, even though, like, spoiler alert, I'm not the biggest fan of the direction that they've gone over the past handful of albums. It's still really good and well done shit, so that's hard. It's hard to knock it. But you'll notice that there's a period of the band that I that I love. Because I love this whole big chunk of their discography. So, what about you? I'm assuming, was it connected to Metallica as well somehow?
Yeah, kind of. I actually heard Quattro first, and it just so happened to be in my uncle's CD collection.
Oh, nice.
And I just saw it, and I was like, Flotsam and Jetsam, that's that band that Newsted was in at one point. And I remember hearing it, and I was like, this is, Quattro is that Black Album era thrash where it's like toned back a bit, but still has the old school vibe to it.
Yeah.
So toned down on the thrash, but still that kick-ass 80s-ish, but polished a bit more, a bit more oomph to it. And, just that early 90s production style I really like. But he also had Doomsday for the Deceiver.
All right.
And I also got a taste of that, and I soon found out that's the one that Jason's on, and I was like, oh yeah, kick ass, cool.
Yeah.
And then over the years, I kind of dipped a toe into No Place for Disgrace as well. I didn't even know When the Storm Comes Down existed until we did this.
Oh, nice. That's going to be a fun one to hear your thoughts on then.
Yeah.
Because I've had, let's just say this because I know it's no secret. I've had 30 years to get used to the snare sound. So it's a different story for me.
You know what? I didn't even notice that first time around. Let me quickly listen to a snippet and hear what you're talking about.
It's that same thing. Like Testament did an album with the same producer. There's like a sound, and I think it's the most noticeable on this Flotsam and Jetsam album.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of boxy. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've grown to love it, so I don't care. But people point that out a lot.
It somehow sounds small and big at the same time.
It always sounded to me like certain albums. It feels like the drums exist in a completely different world than the rest of the music. Even though they're all together, I'm just like, yeah, it sounds like he's in a different country doing drums in a totally different room in a totally different space. And
Souls of Black syndrome.
Yeah, well, Souls of Black I think was the same producer. Anyway,
same year too.
We also did Testament. That was a while ago as well. Cool. So, all right. So, are you done with your little? I didn't mean to call it little, like that, like it's insignificant. With your intro to Flotsam.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay. So, you know what the funny thing was is that my reintroduction to them in the 2000s, when I started catching up with all of their newer stuff, was because for a few seasons I actually enjoyed watching American Idol, and the vocalist's son was on American Idol, and then when they do the little sort of getting to know this person, his dad was there, and I was all like, holy shit! So if this dude can sing anything like his dad, he's gonna be fucking. So I don't know what is Eric AK's last name actually. I don't know what his actual. I've always just known him as Eric AK, so I don't know what his son's name is. But his son was on American Idol. I don't remember him going very far, but he was there.
Creighton Fraker.
What the frack? Huh?
Creighton Fraker.
That doesn't sound. It just. Did you have a stroke? It doesn't. It doesn't sound like a real name.
Fraker has resided in Astoria, New York for the past 8 years, although he grew up in South Dakota as the adopted son of a preacher.
What?
Huh?
Wait, is that not what? Who the fuck is Creighton Fraker?
Flotsam and Jetsam says Flotsam and Jetsam.
We're already off the rails, folks. This is how the episode's gonna go.
In an interview that aired on American Idol, Fraker said, I was adopted when I was just a little baby and I grew up as a preacher's kid singing church music. And then I always had this rock and roll thing going on in me, and it was kind of out of nowhere. I come to find out my birth father, who I never knew until I was like 25, was the lead singer of this 80s metal band called Flotsam and Jetsam.
Okay.
I meet my dad and I'm like, oh, I get it. Fine. It makes sense now.
So he was a love child who was put up for adoption. Well, I'm glad they reconnected. But Creighton Fraker, that actually is a cool musician name, because you're not going to forget that. Anyway, okay, we got 14 fucking albums to do, so let's not fuck around. Hello, thank you everybody for being here. All that shit. What was I saying? Hi. This is the time where I throw it over to Eddie Sparxx, because Eddie Sparxx starts us off at the bottom of the barrel, and we'll see if we match up anywhere with his number 14 Flotsam and Jetsam album. Do it.
This is a list that was really hard to rank. And this, again, is one of those cases of I basically went off of how interesting do I find the overall package of this stuff? Yeah. In the end, because every single album is at least performed well.
Yeah.
It's just, other factors. And my number 14 ended up being Dreams of Death from 2005.
Same. Mine. That's also my number 14.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that's controversial.
No. I think, like, while doing my research for this, I saw a few people had it a lot higher up, but for me, it's a prime example of the production wasteland that is the 2000s for metal bands. Like, it's like they'd had 3 decades of like knowing how albums should sound, and then I feel like every metal band transitioning from the 20th to the 21st century, it was like, oh, we're gonna sound like ass now.
Well, I think that you're half right there, but I think the other half of that is these major label bands are no longer on major labels and don't have the backing to go to fancy studios with well-known producers or whatever. And so I think in some cases bands, I mean, I don't know for sure, but in 2005, I bet you that there was probably a budget issue with just like, look, we just got to record this. I don't know. I don't even know if it says where it was recorded, but
let me have a look.
It's one of those things where, and I think I think every one of these bands, like Death Angel has one too, where there's an album that if it sounded really good, I might like it a little bit better, but the music isn't strong enough to overcome the production. So that's kind of why it's at the bottom for me, but.
Oh, I didn't know this. Dreams of Death is a concept album revolving around the theme of death-related nightmares. It is a continuation of the song themes in Dreams of Death, previously recorded on the 1988 album No Place for Disgrace.
Yep. Yep.
Well, at least that's a little enlightening as to the album's theme. However, this, to me, upon listening to it, I was like, it just felt a little unseasoned,
Yeah.
That kind of metal album where I'm like, yep, it's a metal album.
Yeah.
Not much to report, It's not bad, but it's far from their best.
Yeah, it is one of those things where they're pretty much most of their discography for me would be like, if any song just randomly came up, I would enjoy it while it was on, no matter what song it was. But this one is it's just not, I can tell that that songwriting wise, they're still, kind of trying to throw new things in there every once in a while, but I don't think it doesn't work as well in this. Maybe because they were overburdened with the idea of a concept. I don't know. I just feel like setting out to make a concept album is not always the best idea. Cause like we talked about this before, like how many really great concept albums are there? Not a lot. There's a small handful that I would call really great. But anyway, we can move on because that's also my number 14, and I agree with you on all you said. It's Flotsam and Jetsam, and they've never done anything that I would consider bad, but this is the one where the music and the production kind of go together in kind of this isn't really doing it for me kind of thing. So moving on to number 13. Number 13. Oh, look, I'm deleting this one, and the numbers corrected themselves. Fuck yeah.
Yay. Nice. Cool. Well, I'm going to move it over just one album after. I've gone, number 13 is The Cold.
Okay.
And again, this album, it's an improvement on the previous record on the production front. It sounds a lot better. It sounds less blanketed in mud.
There's a 5-year gap between those two also.
There is a 5-year gap. And also, what do we got here? It is more progressive than some previous albums.
Yep.
Some syncopated rhythms and stuff are, prominent throughout. There's odd time signatures and technical death metal elements, but I mean, at the same time, it's one of those things where this like mid to late. I mean, I know this is 2010, but that's like saying 1990 is a 90s year.
Yeah, stuff from 2010 sounds just like 2009, man.
Yeah, again, it comes down to that thing of, sure, it's one of those. Yeah, it's like it's got an all-star music rating of 3 stars, and I'm like, yeah, because it's not bad at all. It's just it doesn't stand out to me. They're stepping in a direction that they would go on to hone and build off of as the new version of Flotsam and Jetsam. I'm saying every word but Jetsam.
Flotsam and Carly Rae Jepsen. Call me maybe. God, I was good. Man, everyone out there is gonna be like, how does old head know who sings "Call Me Maybe"? I just do.
Man, I'm gonna come right out and say it. That song, I really, 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 really like you. I really, 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 really like the drum sound on that. Who
does that song?
That's Carly Rae Jepsen.
Oh, she has more than one song. Good for her.
Yeah.
I'm not a good pop fan because I know a big hit and then that's kind of it.
that song has proper 80s drums all over it.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It's a cool song. I like that one. But yeah, like I say, The Cold.
Tune into the Flotsam and Jetsam ranking where they talk about Carly Rae Jepsen. Is that her name? Carly Rae Jepsen?
Yeah, it is. Flotsam and Jetsam.
That's a collaboration that needs to happen. All right, guys? Let's just, on one song, have Carly Rae Jepsen and then call it Flotsam and Jetsam. It's got to happen in a perfect world. Anyway, so you're still talking about The Cold. This one's much higher for me, so I'm not really chiming in right now.
Yeah, for me, when I went about ranking this, I thought to myself, this is such a hard list to put together, and we're doing it all in one go in an episode. Yeah. And I thought to myself, I'm going to break it down era by era and kind of just rank what appeals to me the most about this band. But yeah, that being said, that's pretty much what I would consider the 2000s era of their stuff.
Yeah.
Notable exception being My God, which I kind of lump more towards their 90s-ish stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Cold, number 13.
Cool. My number 13 is currently their most recent album, which is called Blood in the Water, which came out in 2021. So once again, this album sounds good, performed really well. The songs are good. I don't really have much of a gripe about the album just as it is, but it's one of those things where Flotsam and Jetsam has now become one of the many, many bands that is kind of stuck in a rut. And it's proof by the 2 singles that have come out for their newest album, which also is just more of the same. Still good, but nothing that's going to surprise you, nothing that's going in a new direction or adding new elements. They've settled in for the last, I'd say, 4 albums.
Yeah.
What now? And so Blood in the Water follows the end of Chaos, which I think is for their newer stuff, the strongest album that they've done. So when it's followed up by another one that's like, it's kind of more of the same, but it's still good. But then you're putting it in this ranking with so many albums that I listen to and I go, this is fucking so good. And then so I'm like, well, I'm glad they're still doing it and they still sound great and they're still one of the best. But if you're not surprising me, like I said, I really do think that a lot of us, and I'm gonna lump you in with this because you're a fan of the era, a lot of us just got so spoiled with music in the late 80s and early 90s that we just got so used to bands constantly trying new things and pushing forward into new territory or whatever, and it was pretty rare that a band would put out 2 similar albums in a row. It happened, but even then you'd be like, oh, cool, they kind of did a better, tighter version of what they did before. But you knew that, like, well, the next one, the next one's going to be different, and it was. So I'm spoiled. So I listen to albums like this and I go, it could be better. So that's my number 13, Blood in the Water.
Cool. I kind of anticipated that. I anticipated, this, these last, three and soon to be four albums, they fall into, like you say, the rut that, tends to, it doesn't impress you because it plays it safe a little bit.
Yeah. Even production wise, similar production, similar songwriting. It's just even album covers start to look similar. So
it's that thing of, we've made a comeback now. Let's just keep the train rolling. That which is probably the mindset. They're probably.
But so many fans love that though. So I feel like I have no place to really gripe about it, because you talk to the other, Megadeth or Iron Maiden or other bands that have just been kind of like treading water, but everybody fucking loves it. If they keep doing the same kind of quality shit, the majority of the fans are great. And honestly, like, you can't fault them, I guess. I may not be on board with a lot of it, but I also I don't look at it and go, well, they suck because they do that. I just look at it as, well, their mindset is probably like, we go out on stage and our fans love this stuff and it gives us this energy. And when we write songs, that's how it comes out. More of that. Yeah. So it makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely. Especially, late into their career now.
Yeah.
All things considered, the first album came out in '86. So to be putting out music this viscerally, awesome, especially,
and Eric A.K. still sounding fantastic he's got to be pushing 60 now if he's not already 60. So
yeah.
And
one thing I will say, and I mean this in a good way. This is not me. He sounds like, as he's gotten older, he sounds like a more vocally trained M. Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold at times. At times, I heard him singing, and I was like, if you'd have told me that that's an Avenged song, I'd be like, fucking hell, Avenged got thrashy. But
that's a band we got. Is that band on our list, Avenged Sevenfold? I feel like eventually we gotta do them because they're such a big band. I really liked that last album.
Yeah,
I thought it was great. So
there's a video game connection to that band as well. For me,
we'll definitely have to do that.
Yeah. So several video game connections.
That won't be the modern metal band we will be doing soon, though, because we are doing a modern metal band soon.
Yeah,
I'm actually very excited about that. I won't say anything else about it, but
which one do you mean? Do you mean the spooky one, or do you mean the
one that I don't know anything about?
Yeah,
are fans going to know what that symbol meant? Is that like eating vag? Sorry, podcast world. He did like an upside down triangle. Does it annoy you when young people do the heart with their fingers or something? How do you do that?
That one.
Wait, this is, I don't like that at all. But there's a new one. So there's this one, but then I think younger people are doing like this kind of, hurts my fingers. This is the only symbol I'm going to do. Why can't you do a special thing on the Zoom for this? But you can do it for this. Sorry, podcast listeners.
Oh man, I'm jealous of the lasers. I need to get the lasers. Yeah. But
what I want is what is it? what sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads.
Yeah. What's that from again?
It's Austin Powers.
Oh yeah.
He's like, we don't have any sharks. What do we have? Sea bass. They are mutated. Are they ill-tempered?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm long overdue.
That was not a good Dr. Evil impression at all. It was terrible. Are they ill-tempered? I sound more like the guy from Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's astounding. Time is fleeting. Sorry. Let's do the time warp.
Ladies and gentlemen, all there.
It's a dump to the left. I should stop doing so much shit. It's getting hot in this fucking room. I have like lights off in here. I should have worn one of my tanks. I almost called it a muscle shirt, but when a flabby dude's wearing it, that doesn't work. It's just a tank top.
I mean, to be fair, I need to get back into better shape.
Shut up!
My arms aren't looking quite.
Nothing worse than a thin person being like, you know what? I gotta get into better shape.
You think I'm thin?
Well, compared to me, I'm telling you, once we get the money together and I finally fly over to England, the first thing you're going to be like, he's way chubbier than I thought. That's why all of my shit is from here down. You're never going to see me. That's why on TikTok I'm not like fit check, because I'm not. There's no fucking way. Plus, I wear the same shit every day.
Is cushion for the pushing, man. Know what I'm saying?
Hey, my wife likes it, and so I'm not. It's. Yeah, my only problem with it is that as a 46-year-old man, I'm like, I'm getting old. You can't be that out of shape if you want to live forever. Anyway, all right, where were we? Number 12.
Positivity.
Yeah, I'm positively chunky. Let's do number 12.
Okay, my number 12 ended up being Unnatural Selection from 1999.
Okay.
And initially this one was higher, but I went back over and I thought to myself, I ended up listening to it on multiple different systems. I was like,
yeah,
okay. I listened to it on AirPods, and then I listened to a little bit of it on speakers, and then I listened to it on headphones. And ultimately, I decided, holy fuck, that kick drum is too loud.
Yeah.
I like a nice thumpy kick. That is way overpowering the mix. It is all kick, nothing else. Like, holy shit. That's another one that the production's not great. But the songs are good, so it helps a little bit. And it's one of those where it kind of fluctuates for me between the album it landed at here and the album I ranked above it. Looking at this ranking now, I'm like, dude, I'm fucking wrong. Like, it's weird. Again, like I say, this ranking, I chalked it up to, where do they sound like they're killing it the most?
Yeah.
And this also one of the worst album covers of all time. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think it's that. It wouldn't go on the top 50 Rolling Stones top 50 worst album covers that they put. Did you see my video? They put fucking Chocolate Starfish at number 1 for the worst album cover of all time. That's just ridiculous.
That's the inside job that is Limp Bizkit bashing. Anyone capable of having fun enjoys Limp Bizkit. I don't trust people that don't.
I just know you got it. Fred Durst had sex with the editor's wife or something. Like something happened, and then now they're number 1. Anyway, what?
That being said, though, it's that kind of bad that's awesomely bad, and I also kind of love it.
Yeah.
Oh shit, let's take a photo of an ant real up close, and then let's get a security guard with an attack dog, and let's fuck with perspective a little. What if we have the ant really close and the dog far away? Make ant look big. Whoa. And then make it orange.
Then make man fight ant with sword.
Yeah. And it's very, very of its time. And like,
Yeah.
It's kind of a return to the thrashy vibe a bit, but it's definitely through the lens of post-Pantera, Machine Head, Fear Factory style of... there's more focus on groove and low end on this, And
Yeah.
they went way overboard on the low end because that kick drum just overpowers everything else in its path. And
Yeah. It totally reminds me of, I was in a band in the late 90s, and I don't know why, and this is my fault. I don't know why there was a section of one of our songs that had was kind of like, we weren't a metal band, we were more of like a post punky emo kind of thing, but we were heavy-ish. But I just remember we had this like breakdown section where the drummer is really leaning into the crash, like,
yeah.
And for some reason I'm like, that crash cymbal has got to be the loudest fucking thing on the recording. And I just would not let up. And so the final recording of this song, once that part stops, you're like, what the fuck is happening? I'm like, yeah, that's the loudest crash cymbal ever recorded right there, folks.
It's funny. I actually have in my notes, I liked this album more than High, but it switches day to day. And honestly, at this point, I am thinking to myself, nah, I do like High more.
Well,
but again,
nope, sorry, you can't go back. Yeah, it's set in stone.
Yeah, this has been such a hard ranking for me to do because you can kind of break down their career into eras, and you can do that for a lot of bands, but they have several albums per era. So, it's not like, Celtic Frost where they went
Celtic Floss.
Yeah, Celtic Floss. I can't fucking speak anymore.
But it's just making it so much better.
Yeah.
Let's just purposely mispronounce every band name from now on. That's just our thing.
Just start turning everything into
nice
mispronunciations.
Nice Guns N' Noses shirt you got there.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage. Cryptic Floss.
Cryptic Floss. That sounds great. That's a great band name. Cryptic Floss.
Please welcome to the stage. Flotsam and Jetsam.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Right. What? This is going to be a really long episode.
Yeah.
Sorry, and you're welcome, I guess.
It's ultimately this album. I tend to avoid saying dated because dated don't mean shit to me. Of course, something's going to sound like the time it came out in for the most part. But, it's very 1999 groove thrash. And it's cool. But if we're stacking it up to other albums, I have to concede that, it's a little lesser. So... back over to you. What is your number 12?
Number 12. I'm going to blow through these so we can just get moving. My number 12 is the self-titled Flotsam and Jetsam album from 2016.
Okay.
Which would have been, I guess we would consider it the beginning of their current era. Mm-hmm. Because from this point on, I think that they did a lot of similar stuff. And at the time when the album came out, I thought I really enjoyed it. And I just liked that they had a good energy to what they were doing, and Eric still sounded great. But once they released the next album, and I was like, oh, this is like a better version of that. This one got pushed down because this is my least favorite era of Flotsam and Jetsam, and this was the beginning of it. But they did better, in my opinion. So Flotsam and Jetsam self-titled goes here at number 12, bringing us to number 11.
Okay, cool. So my number 11 is High from 1997.
Hello.
Fuck's sake. Right. It's one of those albums that for me, I went into it thinking this is going to have a lot that's going to appeal to me, but I also ended up a little bored at times compared to Drift. So,
yes.
there's a pretty clear trajectory once they get to Quattro, where it's like, okay, we're still a thrash band, but we're accessible. Then to Drift, it was like, oh, we're trying an alt metal thing out. And then by the time we get to High, it's like, okay, we're like post grunge ish metal now a bit, and it's like there's cool moments on it, but I also found myself thinking, I went chronological through all the albums, and I ended up thinking, this is where I start to hear things that are a little pedestrian compared to things I've heard on previous albums, where it at times on this album I found myself thinking, this sounds a little going through the motionsy. Oh, this is a banger. And then again, it sounds like, we're not necessarily experimenting with things that interest us. It sounds more like trying to fit in a little bit more. Drift felt like a bit of a seamless thing for me, where it was like, we've got this whole new era to fuck around with, and they did that. And I think they did it very well with that album. High, on the other hand, was the first time I thought, okay, yeah, these guys are starting to think, okay, where do we fit here in this overarching puzzle? So yeah, for me, High it's all right, but it's not high on my list.
Oh, very nice.
Hey.
All right. Yeah. Well, for me, I'm getting rid of this era of Flotsam and Jetsam right now. Number 11 is The End of Chaos from 2019, which to me is the best of this current sound that they're doing, which is most likely the sound that they will continue to do. I can't fault them for it, but this was the one that, like most of the album, I thought was very strong and it was very enjoyable. I like the sound of it. I like the performances on it. I could give or take the album cover. It's whatever, but yeah, it's an album that if it's playing, I'm not going to complain about it because it's very strong for a band that's been going for this long. I just think that, like, you'll see as we're moving in my list, the thing that I like is that, like, all of these albums, I feel, give us something a little bit different. For my top 10, every single album it gives me a different vibe that I enjoy. Whether I like one more than the other, it's a different story. But yeah, End of Chaos is the best I think that they've done in this current thing. I just think that it's a little too leaning into like what did I say earlier? Power thrash.
Power thrashy.
Power thrash.
Modern.
It's like another band that's doing that now that it annoys me because I can't say their albums are bad, but they're very repetitive. Is Creator. Creator is just doing the same thing where every song has the really thrashy verse where he's like, but then it goes to halftime and it's like, is where we sing. It's like, I'm just like, all right, you literally did that on like 50 songs now.
Yeah.
And I just want to hear betrayal. Like, that's what I want to hear.
Some pain will last.
But I know you can't do that shit forever. But I do admit I do have to admit that, like, it does bother me when, like, a band does something like that where, oh, they did this really good. Cool, let's do it another 4 or 5 times with similar album covers, and I just go, no, all right, fine. But yeah, but now we're on to the top 10, and for my top 10, I think at this point, all of these albums have something about them that I'm just like, this is fucking great. These 10, so. Let's go with your number 10.
Okay, so this is where we're kind of going to get to a bit of a middle point after this album. So my number 10 is My God. And
all right.
I like it because, again, it kind of it comes off of the heels of Unnatural Selection, and it feels like they figured the production out a little more, and they're like, okay, we're back doing thrash with some groove thrown in, but the production's a little more coherent. It doesn't make you hyper aware that you may be listening to a kick drum that is 10 dB higher than every other instrument. Ultimately, it's a cool It's a cool album. And where are my notes for this one? Sorry, yeah, the 90s style groove riffing is still going strong here. Some thrash creeping back into the forefront. I would still consider this a 90s-ish offering from the band. You know, it's still within that vein, but they're definitely getting thrashy again. And the cool thing about Flotsam and Jetsam is there's a trajectory you can trace. It's like thrash. Let's say up here is the thrash zone, down here is the groove zone. Thrash, 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 groove, 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 thrash, 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 and then power metal. Yeah,
that graph made no sense, but it also made perfect sense at the same time.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's cool. Again, it's one of those albums that I'm like, yeah, if it was on,
yeah,
I'd be happy to hear all of these albums again, really. And my God has a lot going for it. That being said, that is going to mark the bottom third of my ranking at this point, because I have a similar thing to say about modern Flotsam and Jetsam as you do.
Flotsam and Jetsam.
Floppy and Jetty. So yeah, that's my number 10. My God, God, that album's cool.
Cool. My number 10 is Unnatural Selection from 1999. And I agree with pretty much everything you said, especially about the production. I really like the songs. I really like the songs on it. And yeah, I just think it's got a lot of cool songs on it. And so the production, I got used to it pretty quick just because I liked the content of the album. And yeah,
I'm just going to say, if you're going to have a kick that loud, you need to have a snare that doesn't sound like pink.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Sorry, I derailed you.
No, I'm just, it always makes me think about, like, I wonder what would have happened if I had actually stuck with my plan to go into audio engineering in the early 2000s. Because I went to college and took some audio engineering courses. But I quickly realized that, like, oh no, this is like, there's a whole nerdy aspect to this that doesn't connect with me because I'm more of the artist side of things. Yeah. So it got to the point where I went, I would not be happy doing this. Like, I would probably enjoy doing it for, like, if I got hired to do albums, I'd probably enjoy doing it for 2 or 3 albums, and then I would never want to do it again. Just because the little projects that we would do, I just remember being like, this is really not that fun. It's kind of cool to be involved in the recording of the band and tweaking everything and the final product. But at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. But if I had stuck with it, like, I'm like, what would I have gotten so good that I could, like, you know, could I make good sounding albums? Could I have been a producer or engineer that made some good sounding shit? I don't know. We'll never know. I just do my own little garage band engineering now. That's all I do. But yeah, Unnatural Selection, I like it. I just, the production's not great. And I think that it started to become too much of its time for what they were doing, that they didn't seem like that special of a band anymore at this point, because it's good music. But I'm like, well, aside from Eric's vocals, the music could just be a number of bands. So I had to go here, even though I do like it. My number 10, Unnatural Selection. Number 9.
Okay, so this is where we enter the modern Flotsam and Jetsam.
Ooh, you said it right.
Jetsam, Flotsam, Flappy, and Drungo. Anyway, yeah. So number 9. My number 9 is the self-titled Flotsam and Jetsam album from 9. From 9? No, it's number 9. It's from 2016. Okay.
He still hasn't recovered from fainting, folks. He's doing his best.
Yeah. I am malfunctioning today. Yeah. It's a cool modern thrash metal album. It's a little long. It's, clocks in at over an hour. But everything is really well performed. They sound great. But it is one of those things now where you find a lot of these old school metal bands, they find like a modern version of their sound that's like a blend of everything they've done up to that point on some level, some things more than others. See Megadeth, for example. Megadeth landed on that middle ground between thrash from the 80s and accessibility from the 90s and have ridden that for 20 years now, and it's served them well. They've had their ups and downs in terms of critical acclaim. Some albums were better received than others, but for the most part, sonically, it's very what you're getting. And
I think with some of these bands too, some bands, to their credit and their fault, they put out albums too fast, because I'm thinking about it and I was like, Anthrax is at this point now, but they take so long to put out albums that it doesn't. Well, I love Anthrax first off, but worship music.
Just happy to hear another one.
Yeah, but worship music and For All Kings is middle ground Anthrax. Really good. But I'm all like, oh yeah, they're probably about to put out an album that's similar. Maybe they won't. Maybe I'll be wrong. But they'll put out an album that's similar, and I probably won't have that much of a problem with it. But there's so much space in between the albums that, same thing with Metallica. Metallica's, I think they've been a little bit more varied with their albums. I can hear differences between them, but same thing. They take a long time. Whereas bands like that like I feel like they're more financially secure, so they can afford to take some time. I guess I don't know, because I'm not in a band, so I don't know how it works. But it just made me think of that, because I'm all like, there are bands I like that have hit the middle ground, but not all of them interest me, I guess. But by the way, it was recorded at Sonic Fish Productions and Gnome Lord Studios. It's just a fun little anecdote. I think Gnome Lord is a cool name for a studio. Gnome Lord. That's a fucking stoner doom band name waiting.
You seen those TikToks of people dressing up like gnomes and going in and like there's this funny theme music that plays on all of them. They crouch down and put like a little green robe and a pink hat on, and they like go into like stores and they've sped it up so it looks like a crouched down guy is just wandering around really fast.
I think I've seen one of those, but I didn't get onto the gnome side of TikTok yet.
It's like these, sometimes they get like 4 or 5 gnome dudes to go into like a fucking TK Maxx and just start attacking knights inside, and like the staff are like, what the fuck is going on? It's funny. It's funny. It brings me a smile whenever it shows up. And the music that plays every time, it's meant to be epic, but it just makes me fucking laugh. It just goes it must be from a video game or something, because it's got kind of a lo-fi quality to it, but it cracks me up. But yeah, anyway, like I say, this album, we try to stay on track, and we've talked about fucking gnomes and Carly Rae Jepsen.
I still think we're doing pretty good, though. We're doing pretty good.
Yeah. We're breaking new ground. We're breaking our record for albums covered in a single episode. I know that.
Yep.
But it's again, it's that thing of they've landed on this power metal meets thrash meets OG heavy metal sensibility that just works
Yeah.
for them. And I mean, this is the beginning of that. And I feel like they've built off of it. They've improved on it. And it's just cool to keep hearing albums come out from this band. And they aren't getting any younger. So to hear albums coming out that just, even if they are a little samey, sound consecutively badass.
Yeah.
That's really cool to see regardless, you know? So, yeah. Oh, and it's also the only Flotsam and Jetsam album to feature Jason Bittner on drums.
Mm-hmm.
He was also in Shadows Fall, I think is the band, and went on to join Overkill. So a
Nice.
renowned guy. Yeah.
Cool. My moving on quickly. My number 9 is Ugly Noise from 2012, and
Okay.
this isn't an odd album for me because it is one that I will forget what it sounds like. Like I've heard it several times, and I will look at the album cover and go, "What songs are on this album?" But then when I put it on, I'll go, "Oh, this is some cool shit that's on here." And I don't. It's and there's this transitional period, and I think like Dreams of Death would be included in that, but I clearly didn't like that one. But Ugly Noise and The Cold, they both have a thing about them that they feel unique in the Flotsam and Jetsam discography, because it's not quite in the same realm as the Unnatural Selection or the more late 90s metal, but then it also doesn't sound a lot like what they would end up doing. And so I hear them and I go, well, these are just cool because they're just kind of unique Flotsam and Jetsam albums, which is kind of what you want. Even though like I think they had better songwriting and stuff on other albums, I really like I like what they did around this time. And I just these were the albums, Ugly Noise and When I Get to the Cold, these were the ones that like once I kind of got back on board and was like, oh, what's Flotsam and Jetsam been up to? These were the ones where I was just like, these are interesting and cool albums. And but Ugly Noise just has the distinction of being the one where I'm always like, what's on that one again? Oh, okay. So but yeah, Ugly Noise from 2012 is my number 9.
Very nice. Very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.
My wife,
Okay.
she is number 3 prostitute.
She is my sister. Oh, okay.
I love how like you used to hear Borat impressions so much that it got annoying, but now you don't really hear them anymore. So it's kind of cool when somebody does one.
Well, I've got a mustache now, so like I got the pass. Yeah,
You should go as Borat
Simply.
for Halloween.
Oh, don't get me started because I will.
Do it. Yeah.
And I will say all of the bad stuff. This suit is not black.
But also doesn't Ali G have a mustache too? You could go as Ali G.
I could.
Oh, he's got the round thing going on.
The pencil thin. Yeah. Douche goatee.
Anyway, all right. Number 8.
One of the funniest clips that I just remembered made me laugh, and it's a pretty edgy joke by today's standards, but like it was one of those where he was with like this historian guy and they were talking about like coal mining or something. I can't remember. It was some sort of mining, and he showed him some photos of people and they're all covered in just gack. They are just completely blackened by this stuff, and he just goes, "Why is he dressed like a brother? That's racist." It just cracked me up. Yeah. But man, yeah. Okay, so we're on my number 8. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so my number 8 is Blood in the Water.
All right.
And it's like I said for the last one, I have the same thing written down for these three albums, man. I'm going to be honest. It's like ass kicking modern thrash.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It kicks ass, but in a sea of albums that sound like this and are presented this way, it can't help but feel like you're either just happy they're putting another one out, a super fan of said band,
Yeah.
or you're like me and listens to everybody's album ever because you're on a show and you're like, I need to put this in some kind of order. And honestly, this one here is the latest in the catalog, and it's like, yeah, cool, kicks ass. Yep. What about a rap verse once in a while? Just something new.
Oh man, that would kill their career. Man, that's like, there's nothing. Oh man, you can't. No.
What if we put a dubstep drop here? What if we did something completely fucking nuts?
Man. No, you can't. You that's why bands are so strict with the way they sound now, because people are just fucking jerk offs on the internet.
Yeah.
When anyone does anything different.
That's the thing, it's that fucking thing. If you stay in the same place, someone's going to take issue with that. If you try anything different, someone's going to take issue with it. And at the end of the day, these guys are probably thinking, right, we're in a hyper critical era now where the loudest voices get pushed to the top. And
fuck that.
They're probably just thinking, we're good at this. Let's impress our fans with what impresses them. So at the end of the day,
we should take advantage of that trend, and like maybe at least once we try to lean into that and do an episode where we just act like the biggest douchebags on the internet to see how much traction we get. And the episode will just be like the shittiest shit ever from Cranked and Franked.
The only good Metallica album is Lulu or something like that. Yeah, take ridiculously over the top.
Oh, that might actually be the angle we go, where we go the complete opposite, where we're complete assholes, but we are just talking about all the albums everybody hates.
Yeah, coming in at number 3 with yet another god-awful thrash offering is Master of Puppets, once again rehashing Ride the Lightning, shit like that. Another 8-track thrash album that fails to deliver on the promises set by their demo from 1981.
I feel like you're reading that review we read.
Yeah. Also, if anyone's listening to this and you're the guy that gave Angel Dust a 0% on Encyclopedia Metalum, it's on site, buddy. Anytime, anywhere. But yeah,
it's the fucking Vince Neil Axl Rose beef, but it's you, the guy that reviewed Angel Dust. I'm challenging you to a fight wherever you want to fight, and they never fought. But you know what? Axl Rose would have beat the shit out of Vince Neil.
Oh man. Who am I to predict? Axl would have won probably. Yeah. Axl's got that unhinged energy. Like
he's not only is he unhinged, but he literally spent 3 hours every show running back and forth while singing really loudly and high. I think he was in really good shape around that time.
Take that, get down there and take that. I'll take it, motherfucker. Dives into the crowd and just goes skits.
Yep.
All that guy did was try to film a concert. What do you think he'd do to you?
Do you want to know? I'm sorry. I know we're not talking about Guns N' Roses, but they're on your shirt. But Axl Rose is the most interesting, to me, growth of a rock star guy as a person. Whenever you get little glimpses of his personality, because he's never been a person that does a whole shitload of interviews, but he was people thought he was a piece of shit because he was always late and all of this other shit, and he had attitude issues and clearly anger issues. But he has come out the other end, and anytime he does anything, whether it's a tweet or just a little brief thing, I'm all like, how is he? Because he's now become this guy that he seems pretty fucking cool. Like he came out the other end and seems pretty level now. And I'm just like, good for him, man. Good. You know, it's like, that makes me happy because I love the fact that we have that unhinged rock star Axl Rose stuff in our past now, because you can go watch it and go, holy fuck, man. But then now you're like, he didn't become a complete piece of shit that ruined his life and nobody cares anymore. I mean, there are people that don't care, but there's a shitload of people that do. And so I'm just like, you know, because the other end of it is like, I don't know. There's other rock stars that tried to continue being rock star assholes the rest of their lives, and then eventually people just went, fuck you. And then they end up becoming drunks and dying of alcohol or, you know, related illnesses or whatever.
Yeah, it can be an ugly fall from grace when that happens.
Yeah, and I don't fault people, because it's got to be. I've always said that I always thought that if I was just born a couple years earlier, I would have been probably in one of those bands that I was lucky enough to get signed to a major, but then immediately fail. You know, like I would have had the exposure of like, oh, I get to go on these big tours and maybe play some festivals, and I get to record in a big fancy studio, and I get to do a music video, and I get to put these things out. But then the album would have gone, pfft, and there would have been a quick fall. And I'm like, how would I have handled that in my 20s? Because in my 20s, I was fucking awful, like emotionally out of control. I tried my best, but I wasn't good. And so I'm like, man, what would have happened to me? Like, did I actually luck out by just failing at a lower level instead of a higher level? But I think about that sometimes, because I know people that were in those bands that got signed, immediately got dropped, and they're still out there doing shit. But I'm like, what's that feel like? What's that got to feel like? But I don't know. Anyway, sorry, that's just another tangent.
It's like a psychology pondering moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think about it just because that was my dream. So it's like, you know, what would have happened if I had had a little taste of that dream? Would I be the person I am today? And I'm happy with the person I am today, but I have a feeling that I may not be if things had gone a little differently when I was young. So.
Judging by what Dave Mustaine said when he talked to Lars, because briefly for a period there, I mean, he was back at square one when he got booted out of Metallica, and a thing that always stuck with me was the line he said, you know, that made me think to myself, okay, if I get a band going, I'm not gonna be a dick. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna try and be the sane one. And I just remember he says something to Lars like, first I had nothing, then I had everything, then I had nothing again, and it was like, oh, that's gotta fucking hurt, dude. I was thinking to myself, I want to make sure something's a sure thing before I pursue it, you know? Yeah. So.
Yeah.
One of those things.
I mean, once again, it's the same thing. Like, you know, I mean, there's just, I don't know. I feel like it became a real downer. Anyway. You know, Dave Mustaine gets to reap the rewards of all the internet people that are like, he wrote all the good Metallica songs. Yeah,
I mean, 4 or 5 of them, sure.
He co-wrote 4 or 5 of them. Well, no, I guess he wrote. Yeah, I mean, whatever. This is a slippery slope.
Yeah. I remember seeing the Mustaine wrote them all meme in the chat, and I was like, oh, you're gonna come in like a fucking hunter killer drone and just attack that.
It depends on who posts it. It's like somebody, if I see it posted,
bannable offense around here, sir.
Yeah, if I know their intention, I'm just like, fuck you. But
go on, buddy.
If it's like some sort of newbie to my group, and they're all like, Mustaine wrote them all, they're just banned immediately. Like I'm not even gonna have a conversation with those people anymore. It's like there's some people that are just so far gone that you cannot present them with anything else except for the reality that they want. And I'm like, cool. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. Enjoy your shit. Just nowhere around me. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Number 8.
Anyway,
oh, wait, are you still on number 8? You're talking about Blood in the Water? Is that what we're talking about?
I think Blood in the Water is the most recent version of the album that we've had 3 times now.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool. It's nothing groundbreaking. They performed it very well. It ends up in the middle of this ranking as a result because on the one hand, am I reaching for it at any high priority? Probably not, but I can't fault them because they sound like they're doing really well. You know, that is a band killing it on the metal front. So
it is important to note though that at this point, I'm pretty sure that Eric AK is the only original member of Flotsam and Jetsam. I think it's a completely new band now. I might be wrong.
Let me have a quick check of that.
Oh no, it's Kelly. No, Kelly's not in the band anymore.
Michael Gilbert's back in the band.
Oh, okay.
Wait, hang on. Yeah. So Michael Gilbert.
Michael Gilbert also was an original. I guess when the band first started, but I guess he's on. I guess yeah. So it's just it's important to note that even with they're doing great shit, but it's almost a completely different band. So it kind of makes sense that the sound is not the same. But anyway, that's one of those things. I see people on TikTok all the time. Some of them immediately get blocked where they're just like, should you even go see Foreigner because it's only got one real member or some band like that? And I'm just like, there's no point in you making this video. Do you want to go see them or do you not want to go see them? Like, just don't go.
I will say, man, I saw them supporting Whitesnake a few years back now, and I thought they were great.
Yeah,
it was great fun.
Yeah, did it feel like the first time? Or
it was the first time, yeah.
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 Anyway, Foreigner ranking coming 5 years from now, sometime.
Yeah.
Are you done with your number 8?
Yeah.
Okay, my number 8.
Hero.
My number 8 is The Cold from 2010. I really enjoy this album. It's like the proggy-ist I think that they would get. And I enjoy it because I think especially Eric's vocals work really well in that world. To be fair, they work well in all the worlds. Did you see that thing, the Letterkenny clip that I sent you, the To Be Fair clip?
I'm not sure.
It's on TikTok. You just do it later. But it's like that's where that comes from. Where they're like, don't say to be fair. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, this is a really well done album. I'm not a huge fan of the album art. I like it, but it's a little teen girl gothy. And
it's very MCR meets Black Veil Brides of its time.
Yeah.
But it definitely the goth kids t-shirt. Yeah.
But I just think it's a really well done album, and it like I said, it's one of those, it kind of stands on its own in this period of, like, I guess just sort of a transitional period, but I really like what they went for here. And so it ends up being number 8 because I just think that if you're into the Flotsam and Jetsam thing, but you're like, oh, I wonder if they get a little bit proggy for them, what does it sound like? I'm like, it sounds pretty damn good. That's my number 8, The Cold.
Nice. So my number 7, we're on 7, yes?
7.
How to count? 7. You ever hear it? Is that a thing over there? 7.
I guess not.
Craig Revel Horwood. 7?
No.
Yeah, it's Strictly Come Dancing. It's a show over here, and
Oh,
yeah.
they're just dancing in cum the whole time.
Yeah, it gets everywhere, dude.
That sounds gross. No wonder it's not over here on our
The
TV.
janitor jobs, however, are really high-paying gigs.
I'm assuming it's a dancing reality show.
Yeah, it's like, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's celebrities go on and
Over here we have
pair
Dancing
up.
with the Stars,
That's your
which I don't watch that either. So fuck, I don't know.
yeah. I just grew up with it in the background, and I always it burned itself into my ears. Whenever you hear 7.
Yeah, so
I live in the judges.
I live in a house where there's never any actual real television playing.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point where, like, if a show is like a show that comes on a regular television network, I'm all like, ugh. I'm very uppity about it now. Because I'm all, like, this brand new show. I'm like, oh, cool, brand new show on NBC. No, not going to watch it. Sorry.
I tell you what I usually do. I usually put either Family Guy or American Dad on in the background, just so I'm kind of like a dog. Like, I just need a little background noise going on, so it feels like someone's home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are my comfort shows for sure. Yeah, take me back.
I have to admit, though, I do kind of miss the. I mean, I don't go out really anymore, but I used to like go out to shows or go out with my friends, coming home in the middle of the night and watching that middle of the night network television.
Yeah.
And whatever was on, whatever happened to be on. I miss that a little bit. But that's kind of it.
I tell you what I remember from my childhood was if I called in sick to school. It was staying up all night watching Cartoon Network because I couldn't sleep. That was my fucking jam, dude. Watching all the cartoons of my youth, Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo, all that stuff. Loved it. Yeah.
Nice.
I used to love getting sick. Yeah, so
Number 7.
Number 7. Sorry. Right. So,
What's that from again? We should just do the same bit all over again.
yeah. Just stuck in a time loop.
It's just some deja vu shit.
Yeah.
Some deja vu shit.
Crankception over here. The end of chaos.
Nice.
The Ingen of Chows. We got. Yeah, I agree. It's the strongest of the bunch of the modern Flotsam and Jetsam albums. Honestly, again, what I've said for the other two applies here. It's ass-kicking modern thrash. It's just this one also stuck out to me as particularly strong. Yeah, all in all, like I said, this string of 3 albums, there's not an awful lot else for me to talk about other than the fact that I think End of Chaos was the one where they fucking killed it, dude. Like,
yeah.
Aside from that, the albums past this point are the ones that not only piqued my interest but also engaged me heavily to the point where I'm like, that's a repeat listen from here on in.
Yeah.
Every album leading up to this has songs I will go back to, but as for a full album listen, unlikely compared to the others. So, honestly, End of Chaos killed it. You've talked about it. Honestly, I've not got a lot to say other than it's good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Brings me to my number 7, which is gonna close out everything from this from this century for me. My God from 2001 is my number 7.
Okay.
To me, this is the best they did of their "Oh Hey We're Heavy Again," albums. Which A Natural Selection, this one, it's like I think that as a total package of that sort of return to bringing back a heavier Flotsam and Jetsam, I think this is the best that they did.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like the album cover or not, because I don't understand the intention. You know what I'm saying? Where there's some images that go, depending on what human being came up with this, this could be fucking horrible or interesting. But I don't know. So it's okay. It's kind of
the first thing that the first thing I thought to myself was, oh God, it's that album cover and it's 2001. And
yeah.
I immediately thought, okay, did it release before or after the events of 2001?
Before.
Yeah, it came out before. It came out before.
It's just bad timing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, no album timing is worse than that. Which album is it where like they're blowing up the World Trade Center before it happened?
Oh,
Which album is that?
Are you talking about the hip hop album that has that album cover?
Yeah.
I don't remember what the group is. I think that was in the top 50 worst album covers episode that I did.
9/11 poorly aged album cover.
Rolling Stone got that one right.
The coup.
The coup,
Oof.
yeah.
The thing is, it looks just like it, man. It's fucked.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was designed beforehand, dude.
Anyway,
weird.
So yeah, my God is for this century, I feel like it's the best album that they did. And yeah, I just enjoy it the most. It's just the how everything ended up coming together. The production, the songs, the performances, everything it's very enjoyable. So that ends up being my number 7. My God.
Cool.
My God, you really are the most deviant bastard in New York City. Anyway, okay.
It's okay, we let him get that out of his system once in a while.
Sorry about that. What the fuck did you just say? All right.
What the fuck did you just say? We're doing the deja vu thing again.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings me to my number 6, yeah?
Yes, number 6.
Cool. So my number 6 is an album that was a pleasant surprise for me. It is Ugly Noise.
Ah, yeah. What song's on that again? Yes, it's a good album.
What band are we doing?
Yeah.
Honestly, I really like this album because it sits in a kind of zone that's reminiscent of their 90s, early to mid 90s vibe, where it's like, it's thrashy, but it's simplified and groove based. And that is like the perfect middle ground for me. I love thrash, but my favorite thrash is when it's like mid tempo and groovy.
Yeah.
And I mean, this late in the game, it's sandwiched between their 2000s era and their modern era. And it's kind of this outlier that's like, oh yeah, it's kind of rocky at points, not in terms of like, uneven. I mean, as in, no, there's a bit of a hard rock vibe to it where it's not all metal all the time, and I like this change of pace because they'd done 80s thrash, they'd gone through the 90s post-grunge groove metal alt metal thing, they'd come out the other end of it pretty thrashy but a bit more groove in there, and then this is kind of like, let's do kind of fun hard rocking riffage for a little while. And this clocks in at 47 and a half minutes. And it's a nice little chunk of rockin' heavy stuff. I really like it. And I think, personally, it's underrated. I find it more interesting than their more recent output, despite the quality of their recent output. I think if they threw a little bit of this onto a more recent album, I think
Yeah.
you'd have like a real perfect middle ground for me,
Yeah.
because I'd be thinking, man, they threw in a little bit of that like 90s groove sauce in amongst the greater peppering of the thrashage. But yeah, all in all, before we get into the first 5 album string that I have ended up with, this
Yeah.
one, this one is the most interesting to me of their post 95 output. So yeah,
Cool.
with that, that is my number 6. Over to you for your
Not
number 6.
nice. We've both ended up with first 5 albums run because my number 6 is High from 1997. Hello. I honestly, these albums, their first 6, I really enjoy all the places that they go because every single album is a little bit different, and I think that's so great, especially when you're doing it. And I think it's great songwriting as well, and just really well done. High, I just think is the worst. If I had to pick a worst of that period, it's that one, and it's probably, you kind of pointed it out, where I do enjoy when bands from the 80s lean into the 90s. So I enjoy that on this album, but I think sometimes it's a little too much.
Yeah.
A little too, you use the word pedestrian. And I think that's probably a good place to lay it. It's a pedestrian kind of vibe for some of it. But I really like it. And once again, like I've said this a lot, the albums that are from an era it's probably not going to happen. That kind of music's not going to happen again. Metal bands that came from a heavier area flirting with lighter music isn't.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to ever happen the same way again. So even though this is my least favorite of their first 6, there's still something about it where I go, I love the vibe of it. But it's not perfect, but I think it's great. And I think it's just, it's 1997 metal-ish music. And I enjoy it, but I think it is a jump from their first 5. Their first 5 albums for me are amazing. And we have the same top 5, but we just don't know what the order is going to be like. So I'm interested to find out after this. No, I'm kidding. We're not gonna do that. Not gonna do it.
So my number 14 is Dreams of Death.
All right. Yeah, that's also my number 14.
Just pranking the listeners at this point. Some poor bastard on his fucking podcast app, and he's like, man, what keeps happening?
We should just start peppering that in where we just do albums that aren't even fucking, have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, so number 5 is
Airbud Spikes Back.
or Airbuds. We'll just start peppering in random movies.
Yeah.
Number 4, Ernest Goes to Camp.
And that's why I am Spider-Man 4, The Quest for Peace.
That was a merging of two movies.
I'm having a stroke.
Oh my god, man! I remember I saw Superman 4: The Quest for Peace in the theater, and I was a kid, so I should have been all over that movie. But even as a kid, I left that movie going, "What a piece of garbage this movie was!"
Man,
I had to have been 10, maybe, when that movie came out.
Holy shit!
Superman 4, it's like they had no budget for it at all, and they put it out anyway.
You know what number 4 movie I fucking love because it's hilariously bad is Jaws 4. Have you ever seen that?
No, I don't think I've seen. Yeah,
Jaws 4 is hilarious because Jaws the Revenge.
Maybe I have seen that. It's been a very long time. Long time.
Where they're using fucking 1960s level practical effects in 1987. And the
Is that the
fucking
one that has like it's almost like a mechanical tiny shark that they're having in the whole movie?
I saw bits of it years ago. I never caught the full movie, but I know there's one part where the shark comes out of the water, absolutely demolishes this boat, and you can see the mannequin head roll off of the guy as it's happening. Like his head just inexplicably falls off, like while the shark is coming up.
I mean, have you ever been in a shark attack? Maybe your head does just fall off.
I can't speak from experience actually. Now that you raised that issue,
now I'm trying to like, what's a number 4 movie that I really like?
Rocky 4.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Never mind. Game over. Rocky 4.
Oh shit! Hang on. Is this the exact clip? Hang on. If this is the exact clip, I'm gonna send it over to you right now because it is.
Okay. We're a little derailed, but we told you guys this was going to be a chunky boy.
Is this the one?
Oh, what a chunky boy!
Is that the? Oh, I'm gonna have to find it another time. But
all right.
Holy shit! It's like one of those so outrageously bad. It's amazing movies.
That's like one of my favorite things ever. I love Breakin' and Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. Absolutely adore both those movies. But I think Breakin' 2 is actually the better movie because it's more ridiculous. But one of my favorite parts of the movie is the character Turbo, who is this shorter black character, is running away from people and he accidentally falls down the stairs. But then his stunt double is like 3 feet taller than he is. And it's this really tall black dude tumbling down the stairs. And I was just like, that's just so great. He just looks like a totally different person falling down the stairs. I love those movies so much. I can't even. 2 of my favorite movies of the 80s. Anyway, all right. Where are we? Top 5. The first 5 Flotsam and Jetsam albums. What is your number 5?
I really wanted to put this higher, but as it turned out, I couldn't bring myself to do it. But my number 5 is Drift. I was really, really impressed with Drift. I had no prior preconceived ideas about this album. Upon looking at its album cover, I thought, oh man, they look like they get a little serious here. You know, it's in a, what is it? It's like a bunch of church pews and cursive, and it looks kind of like a face. Very vaguely looks like someone's drawn on a forehead, but it's such a mid-90s looking album, and I thought to myself, this is either gonna appeal to me 100% or it's going to be the most bandwagon jumping thing I've ever heard. Thankfully, it was the former, because holy shit, this is a super interesting album. Like it's a much more alternative approach to their sound. It's very 90s, but in a good way, and it's a little lighter on the heavy, but very enjoyable. I actually kind of got, at times, kind of a Saigon Kick-ish vibe to it, where I was like, oh, this sounds like an 80s band that successfully transitioned stylistically into this era and actually knows what to do with it. A lot more on this album than ensuing releases, but I mean, there's definitely a distinctly edgy 90s reover with subject matter and all sorts, 12-year-old with a gun clocking it at track 4. But honestly, I really enjoyed it, and this is one of those really hidden gems that I think deserves a lot more praise and recognition.
100%.
I'm firmly entrenched in the idea that there's a lot of 80s bands that made great 90s albums and no one seems to acknowledge, if not refutes it. And I'm like, use your fucking ears, pal. Turn your fucking brain on. You know,
Yeah.
and I genuinely, this will be a repeat listen from here on in. I
Yep.
was won over completely, and it's only 42 seconds. 40, so what is this? A grand It's only 42 minutes and 35 seconds long. And honestly, that's all it needs to be, because this came out in an era where everybody was like, "Oh fuck, CD runtime, max that shit out."
Yeah.
For the at the sacrifice of a flowing album, but these guys put together 10 tracks of 90s goodness,
Yeah.
and it deserves a lot more praise, recognition, and love.
I would agree. Not my number 5. My number 5 is an album that I really love this album. I love it.
Can I guess?
It gets too much recognition. Oh, you go ahead, have a guess.
It gets too much recognition. I'm going to go ahead and say it's Doomsday for the Deceiver.
It is Doomsday for the Deceiver at number 5. Get your pitchforks out, everybody. I really like this album. Is so much fun, and it's a great 80s thrashy album. They just got so much better as songwriters, and for me, it can't just be thrash. You know, it's there's got to be other things going on, and I love some just straightforward thrashy albums, but picking apart their first 5 albums, this is the one where I went, yeah, these aren't all, great. Like there's great songs on here, and overall as a package, the album is great, but it doesn't have to me as much of a drawback, doesn't pull me back in the way that the other 4 albums do. And yeah, I just I don't really know what else to say about it. It's it's the one that's got Jason Newsted on it, and he did the majority of the songwriting, I believe. So I'm blaming Jason on that. But you also get a really good glimpse into his bass playing style, where it is very fast picking kind of bass shit.
Yeah.
And but yeah, album cover's pretty dumb, but also fun. But yeah, it's really hard for me with these bands that start off very straightforward in one respect, but very quickly start expanding. And it's the same way I feel about Kill 'Em All. I think Kill 'Em All is an amazing album, but then they made Ride the Lightning, which to me puts this huge, wide, Grand Canyon between the two of them for me, because I'm like, this album's so good and I love it and it's so much fun. But then there's Ride the Lightning, and not to say that No Place for Disgrace is anywhere near as good as Ride the Lightning, in my opinion, but it is a step forward to where they I feel like they just became a more interesting band right away. And so yeah, Doomsday for the Deceiver is great. And if that's what you wanted from Flotsam and Jetsam for the entirety of their career, God bless you. And because I know this is probably the only album you like that they did. But yeah, I think it's great. It's just the other 4 are so good that it's really it was really tough. So I had to go here at number 5. Moving on to your number 4.
Okay, so my number 4 is When the Storm Comes Down.
Okay.
And it's the 3rd album. It's the first not to feature songwriting contributions from Jason Newsted. And it's a little more progressive. And it's kind of like the unsung album of their thrash era, where everybody's always they're either like it's a hidden gem or it didn't live up to expectation. Well, I'm like, no, you know what? I think When the Storm Comes Down is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a few factors that, you know, lend it to at least me being a teensy little bit weaker. And when I say teensy, I mean there's very little in it.
Yeah.
You know, it also kind of puzzled me that they had that they're not out of the 80s thrash era yet, and they had such a good thrash logo. What is going on with the album cover on this?
I like the album cover. I don't know.
I do too, but it looks like you know that they went from having a badass 80s logo, 80s metal logo, to, you know, looking like the Shocker soundtrack, you know. Yeah, there's,
I mean, it's 1990, so I mean,
yeah, but like it's even Anthrax, like, even though they'd stripped back maybe some of the visual aesthetic of, like, you know, the jams and stuff at this point, you know, they still have like the thrash logo, and the thrash is still, I don't know, you know, at the end of the day, I don't mean to make this about the album cover and stuff. It just struck me as strange that they had such an iconic logo that they've brought back that they ditched already by album number 3, and they hadn't even got into the quote-unquote 90s era just yet. But
yeah, I feel, I really feel like maybe they didn't want to be pigeonholed, and having a logo does that. You know,
maybe true. Either way, it's 50 minutes of kick-ass old school thrash metal. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still killer stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing, right the way through, and shit, it's great stuff. It's great. So I haven't spent an awful lot of time with it compared to the other two, the other 3 albums that ended up above it, but this definitely is an album that I'll go back to, because it's got that 80s thrash thing, even if it is 1990, you know, semantics and whatnot. Yeah, it kicks ass. It kicks ass, and it belongs in the upper part of this list.
I agree. Also, not my number 4.
Okay.
My number 4 is Drift from 1995.
Okay.
I don't really have anything to add. I agree with everything you said. I think it's a fantastic album, and I love the trajectory of the band from Doomsday all the way to here. I just think that they just did quality shit for every album. And this, you know, it feels like the logical next step from Quattro.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it doesn't, even though I love it, it doesn't go higher, because I do like there to be a higher degree of metal in it, because I think that's when their sound was the most successful to me, when they were, you know, whatever direction they were going, whether they were flirting with more of a proggy or technical thing, or more straightforward, when they had the metal, you know, kind of foundation to it, I think that's when they did the best shit. But, you know, Drift has a little bit of that, but it's definitely more 1995. And I just think it sounds great. I love the songs. I love the whole vibe. I am a fan. I would love to have it on vinyl, please, somebody, someday. All right, so my number 4 is Drift.
Cool. So we're in the bronze medal zone.
Yep.
And my number 3 goes to Doomsday for the Deceiver.
All right. Oh, okay. So,
and as silly occult satanic panic metal goes, this is good silly satanic panic 80s metal. I love this album. It's great. You know, I have a blast when I listen to it. It's not their most mature output, but it's got that old school 80s energy to it that, you know, if someone could bottle that and sell it to me, I'd get high on that shit for the rest of my life. You'd have a pretty consistent business model. So whoever can do that, I mean, it's probably just called cocaine, but try not to develop a habit here. Anyway, like I was saying, it's an ass-kicking metal album, dude. And it's double ass-kicking that Jason Newsted is on it. And
yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to make this about, Metallica. I love Metallica. Metallica guy in this band. That's not the point I'm trying to make.
I mean, but we do. We are a Metallica loving podcast.
Yeah, we are.
It makes sense.
We're a Metallica positive podcast.
I mean, this is all you need to know. Just look behind me, and the fact that there's a Saint Anger poster on my wall. That's all you need to know about me. Thank you.
That is serious. That is seriously. I'm trying to think of what I would say. Don't fuck with me, energy. Yeah. Don't come for me. Look at my wall of records, and right next to it is a Saint Anger poster. I've never thought about that before. That is such a middle finger to just the haters, man. That's fucking sick.
I really didn't think of it that way because I wasn't filming videos in this angle. But then once I did, I'm all like, oh, that's really nice because you got a little Saint Anger, you got some King's X, you got some Anthrax. You know.
Got some Funko Pops and some box sets.
Yeah, I do got some box sets. I got that cool Alice in Chains one that lights up. The jar lights up.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is the one that I was too late to the party to get, sadly.
I got it for free.
You cheeky bastard.
I can say this here because it's like not even related, but I actually got somebody from the management company for Alice in Chains and several other bands contacted me first because they wanted to send me the AFI box set that I did.
I saw that. Yep.
And so they sent me that for free. And then as soon as they sent that was around the time that they announced the Jar of Flies. And I go, you guys manage Alice in Chains. Any chance that you could get me one of those box sets to review? And the lady was like, yep, you're on the list. I was like, oh, fuck yeah.
Dude, I'm just going to start asking for shit.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't get paid anything and I rarely get free stuff. So I feel like, I'm very happy that any time that comes my way, because most of the time, like if you see me talking about something, 99.9% of the time I paid for it. So I'm not at that level yet, but I was lucky enough to have somebody who liked what I was doing working for their company that sent me it. And I was just like, that's fucking great. So, and now I'm ready for the fucking tripod box set, which I guess should be next year. They do the tripod box set. Which is once again going to be just the album and a bunch of stuff, no extra music. You know what I hope they're doing? I hope they're like, we're putting out these box sets and there's not a lot of extras because after we're done with Tripod, we're going to put out a blown out music bank box set. You know what I'm saying? Like the Music Bank box set from back in the day, but with vinyl and Blu-ray or whatever, like blow that motherfucker out. They'll get my money for that, for sure. But so maybe they're just playing the long game. Like, are you a real fan? Then just fucking buy this shit. Otherwise, don't buy it.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Anyway, where are we? You're talking about Doomsday.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. It's killer. It's unrelenting. It's got some unhinged moments on it, vocally as well as instrumentally. All in all, an incredibly fun, good time, and I really enjoy it. It speaks to the over the top 80s part of me that is. Despite my love for the early 90s, the 80s love for me is alive and well in here. Yeah.
Cool. All right, cool. My number 3. This was my top three actually shifted because I expected this one to be higher initially when I was putting this together. But my number three is "No Place for Disgrace" from 1988. Like I said, first Flotsam and Jetsam album I heard, and I love how they got a little more epic with their songwriting, if that's a good term to use. But at the same time included a fucking Elton John cover on the album too. So it's like, whatever. But I just love it. It's a really great, but also you're getting towards the thrash that I like. Like I love the straightforward thrash, but I love it. My favorite thrash albums are the ones where the bands were a little bit left of center or something. You know, I just went to the right when I said left of center, but over there it'll look like I'm going left. Hey. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I just think it's a really great album, and it's got really strong songs on it and performances, and my dogs are barking. And oh shit!
Talk about Quattro.
We'll get there. But yeah, yeah, it's a really big fucking metal album, and I really like that. I like that. I like that late '80s bands putting out big fucking albums with really like ambitious songwriting. I love it. So No Place for Disgrace ends up number 3 because reasons. I'll get there.
Cool. So that brings me to
number 2.
My number 2. My shit number. The shit number being a very good number. I just made a number 2 joke because I'm 12 mentally. So my number 2 is No Place for Disgrace.
All right.
And it is also their second album. The second album. 10 gracious melodies. In this case, because there's 10 songs, not 12 on purple.
Similar to Johnny Mathis.
Oh man. Every band should have a song like that at the end of every album.
Well, then it wouldn't be special. It wouldn't be the special ending of Purple.
But in this post-purple world, yeah. I feel like a standard's been set. We need to have like 2 of those songs at the end.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And a mandatory post-original pressing release of Faith No More's cover of Easy. Yeah, right. Okay. So yeah, like I say, No Place for Disgrace. Mm-hmm. Just gonna say, first things first, I know I've brought up album covers before. This is a cool fucking album cover for a metal album. You've got what is quite clearly the act of seppuku happening on the album cover.
Oh, I didn't know.
It is. It's like an honor-based suicide that was tradition in Japan, in ancient Japan, where it's like, I mean, probably not even ancient, probably relatively recent. Just not modern Japan, I would hope. Anyway, the idea is...
I know nothing about it. Anybody out there done some seppuku recently?
I wouldn't recommend it. It's something you do once. It's something you do once.
Yeah, so you got to do it right the first time.
Yeah, to reclaim your honor, so to speak.
This video has been blocked for cultural insensitivities.
Yeah, so like if you've got piss poor honor, or you've brought great shame, as far as I understand, the idea is one guy stands behind you, ready to decapitate you. Right after you gut yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you know what's so funny is in my brain? Anytime anybody says the word honor, it is always just Karate Kid To me, that's like the origin of the word honor for me and where it lives. I've never used the word honor in my life except for when I'm talking about something Karate Kid related.
For me, the word honor is pretty much exclusively tied to the Medal of Honor games when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, clearly I did not play those.
So some World War II FPS action, very nostalgic for me.
Okay.
I learned a lot of history from video games. Rob my brain, my ass. I learned more from Call of Duty Black Ops about the Cold War than I did in any fucking classroom.
Hey, but I will say it. My kid has always been advanced in reading, and part of it was wanting to know what's being said in video games, because there's a lot of video games you play, there's text and stuff that comes up. So I think that was a big deal, like learning to read, because you're like, well, I want to know what's going on in this game, and it was kind of like a push forward of like, because I guess that's how you learn stuff the best, when you find something like, oh, I want to learn this for this specific reason, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah. I wasn't that good of a parent when it came to reading. It was just luck. Because I'm not a good reader myself. I'm a very slow reader, and I'm one of those people that reads the same thing, same sentence like 2 or 3 times sometimes, because I feel like I stopped paying attention while I was reading the sentence. So
I consume books almost exclusively in audiobook form at this point. My attention span is so short on top of, like, I'll be the first to admit, it has to be a very rare exception nowadays for me to, commit to a book and finish it.
It takes me a while. I actually prefer to read over listening to a book, but it takes me forever. Like if I'm going to read a book, you got to give me a month or 2 to get through it. Then
I fucking loved listening to the Paul Stanley autobiography.
Who narrates it?
It's Paul Stanley.
Oh, God damn! I want to like that. Those are the only audiobooks that I care for. If it's some kind of an autobiography read by the person. Oh, I got to do that. I want to listen to the Arnold Schwarzenegger one too.
Yeah,
God, I got to find out. I think my wife has an Audible account.
Does Apple Music do podcasts and audiobooks now? Because Spotify does audiobooks.
It's separate things. So there's Apple Podcasts and there's Apple Books, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think in Apple Books, it's got audiobooks and I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm going to go look because I didn't know. I would love to listen to Paul Stanley.
It's like the best 10 hours I've ever spent listening to anything. Yeah.
A really good one that I have listened to that I highly recommend is the No Effects. It's called the hepatitis bathtub is the name of the bio. But the band members read it's chapters from different band members, like almost like The Dirt or the way The Dirt was written.
Yeah. But
whenever there's people that they couldn't get to do the thing, they have different celebrities and other people doing the chapter. And it ranges from people that you would know pretty well to people like, who the fuck is this? And it's just, it's just a really fun audiobook listen. So nice. That's my recommendation. If you're one day we'll get to the No Effects ranking and that'll be fun.
Cool.
They're on the list, guys. They're on the list.
Can you imagine your reaction if you said, Paul Stanley audiobook, who's it narrated by? And I went like Gilbert Gottfried or something. I was born without an ear, so I had to produce the album with one ear.
Oh, that actually seems an interesting idea, having people that not only are completely unrelated but are also obnoxious reading audiobooks. It's gonna be Bobcat Goldthwait doing his old style voice where he's like the whole fucking time.
Peter Criss turned to me and said, "Hey, fucko, let me sing Hard Luck Woman."
and then the book just devolves into a gigantic aristocrats joke where everyone's like fucking each other, and they call the act The Aristocrats by Paul Stanley.
No Place for Disgrace is thematically much darker than Doomsday for the Deceiver. And while some of the band's subsequent albums have a more political edge, the lyrical content of the album was similar to its predecessor, focusing on themes centered around history and literature, as well as Satanism and the occult.
It's like someone put an AI over an episode and it's just Gilbert Gottfried the entire time.
Woo! Thank you, Gilbert Gottfried, for special appearance from Gilbert. What's his name? Gilbert Gottfried and Carly Rae Jepsen. All right, so. No Place for Disgrace is what it was your number 2, right?
Yeah.
You gotta. Well, I'm out of water, so let's wrap this up.
Cool. Yeah, it's good album. Me likey.
Yeah.
Very good thrash.
Cool. My number 2, we have the same number 1 because my number 2 is When the Storm Comes Down from 1990. And nice. So the weird thing about When the Storm Comes Down is that it was the fourth Flotsam and Jetsam album I heard, because the order I heard them in was No Place for Disgrace, Quattro, Doomsday for the Deceiver, and then When the Storm Comes Down. And it was the first one that I was a little bit disappointed in at the time. So this would have been early 90s when I heard it the first time. And I didn't really like the sound of it, the production style, but also the way that they get, it's almost like a progressive thrash in a way. I hadn't reached that point where I was in love with that sort of thing yet. I would quickly get to that point where all of those albums from that era, Injustice for All, Persistence of Time, The American Way, all these where the thrash bands got a little more progressive, I would end up loving those. So coming at it from this angle now, listening to it again, now I'm just like, that production's not amazing, but man, the songs on this album are so cool. And there's such a good variety pulling from the thrash world they came from. A little bit of a glimpse into where they would go fully with Quattro, but done in a very sort of, like, for lack of a better term, proggy thrash way. And it's such a really great album. It's really one where, like, each song I'm just like, oh yeah, this song's fucking great too. Oh no, this one's also fucking great. I just love the play out of the album. I love the songwriting. I love the performances. Really, the only problem with this is a problem that I've gotten used to. So it's the same thing with, like, everybody makes that click. Well, it happened naturally for me, but you make that click when you realize you can't hear the bass guitar very well in Injustice for All. And then what do you do as a mature person? You get over it because the album fucking rules. And so it's the same thing with this one, where, like, it took me a little bit longer to get over the fact that I didn't like sonically how it sounds. And now it doesn't bother me at all. Now I know what I'm getting into when I hear this album. And so my focus is just on the songs, the album itself, the performances. And I'm just like, yeah, this album is fucking great. It's so good. So it ends up being my number 2. And we have a joint number 1. And this is, like, one of my favorite albums of the 90s, I would say. So let's throw it over to you for our joint number 1.
Okay, so our number 1. Excuse me, sorry, my throat's kind of raw from the Gilbert Gottfried impression.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm glad I did that near the end of the episode. I'll say that.
Next episode, it's good. You got to do that the whole episode, and we're gonna be doing the Chicago discography in one episode, and you have to do Gilbert Gottfried for the whole time. Chicago 25.
Tune in the following week where I turn up as Ned from South Park, and I've got that little you're coming right for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, my number one is cuatro, meaning four in Spanish.
In Espanol.
Espanol, indeed. And it fucking rocks, dude. It takes everything great about metal in the early 90s and puts it on a disc. Kicking the album off, you got Natural Enemies.
Yep. It's a banger.
Banger. I hardly know her. You got Swatting at Flies, The Message, Cradle Me Now, Wading Through the Darkness, 00, Never to Reveal, Forget About Heaven, Secret Square, Hypodermic Midnight Snack, Are You Willing, Ain't Nothing Gonna, Save This World. What a track list.
Yeah.
I did not know this. Chris Cornell of Soundgarden co-wrote The Message.
I was about to say that. I didn't know if you knew that or not. Yeah, he was the
did not
co-writer
know
on The
this.
Message.
Good Lord above.
Which funny enough, like that's one of my least favorites on the album, and I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I like that song, but I think it probably is in my bottom 2 or 3 of songs on the album, but it's still good. It's still fucking great. It's fucking cuatro.
I mean, I love this album, and I love this era of heavy music. 1992 is like my fucking lifeblood at this point. Of all of the years of music, whenever I think like 1992, I think 91 and 92. There's just and 90 as well. Fuck it, throw
and 93
and 4. Fuck it, the whole lot. Yeah, but honestly, 92 for me is like the peak of this era of just everything very briefly coexisting.
Yeah,
and it's like
it was a beautiful time.
How did we fuck this up?
For those, it was the fans that fucked it up. Yeah. So, which wasn't me, because I was one of those people that was truly enjoying everything at the same time. I actually I own 2 copies of this album because I have a cassette of Cuatro, which is how I originally bought it. This isn't the original because this was one of those albums that I played so much in my Walkman that one day it snapped. I rewound it and it broke. But I listened to this album so much. I just remember, I mean, there's a little fold out there.
I fucking love the shot of them stood with silhouettes at the back as well. I used to look at the CD rear and think that's cool as shit. Yeah.
But I have specific memories of sitting. I'm not a smart man. So I wasn't a smart teenager, so I was in.
But I know what love is.
Yeah, but I
don't think I'm gonna love you anymore.
Yeah, but I had to be in 2 algebra classes. One of them was paced algebra, which is like for idiots. But then because I was such an idiot, I also had like an algebra lab where I would go get help with algebra because I was an idiot. And but I remember being in said lab with my headphones on and just like letting this album wash over me, because at the time it immediately hit me. It's like, oh, this album's fucking amazing, and I just could not stop listening to it at the time. And it's one that like has aged so well because sonically it sounds amazing, and the songwriting, because it fits in that middle ground where there's still enough metal, but it's still, in the 90s, it's got a, it's once again, a lot of bands were doing this kind of album as well. But I think out of all the bands that did this kind of album, I think Flotsam and Jetsam is one of the best. Cuatro is one of the best. And I just think, I don't really know. It's just so good. And I know that it's like, this is probably a shitty number 1 for people that their Flotsam and Jetsam is literally just, it's got to have like a fucking dragon on the front of it, or a Godzilla, a Flotzilla or whatever. And that's fine. but the quality of this album it's the most perfect album that Flotsam and Jetsam made, in my opinion. And it never gets old, always sounds good. It's just, yeah, it's peak 90s metal for me, early 90s metal.
It's also the best Flotsam and Jetsam album with a helicopter on it.
yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the album cover. It's not awful. I like I enjoy the cassette version of it just because I like
holy shit. The cassette is more zoomed out. You can see more of what's going on.
Yeah. It's almost like, it's like the cassette versus the CD version of The Real Thing by Faith No More.
Yep.
The CD version is a close-up of one of the little flaming drops, but then the tape version was a further away with where you can see the sun and everything. And
the most interesting one of those to me was Introduce Yourself by Faith No More. There's three different splats. There's the full splat. Some pressings have part of the splat really zoomed in, but the cassette version is just a smear. It's a completely different ink blot. Yeah.
So you got to collect them all, as they say.
Yeah, gotta catch them all. I want to be the very best.
That right there is the best example of our age difference. Because when I say collect them all, that was like 80s shit where you would have all these different toys and they would always say like collect them all. Like it's like, you went to catch them all.
Yeah.
The Pokemon thing, which I was too old for once Pokemon started happening. So
let me have a look. When did Pokemon come out? Pokemon came out just before I was born, I think.
Sometime in the 90s, late 90s maybe.
First released as Pocket Monsters, February 27th, 1996.
1996. So yeah, I was graduating high school when Pokemon or Pocket Monster, which sounds pretty dirty.
Yeah, I've just thought about that.
Hey, you want to collect some Pocket Monsters?
Pokemon is a series of video games developed by Game Freak and published by Nintendo and the Pokemon Company on the Pokemon Media franchise. It was created.
All right.
How do you get Pikachu on a bus? You Pokemon.
That was great. All right. Well, I mean, do we have anything else to say about Quattro, our number one Flotsam and Jetsam album?
Quattro is the fourth studio album.
Is that why it's called Quattro?
Anyway, my number 14 is Dreams of Death.
Ah, mine too. That was matched up on number 14.
Right, you know what? I think trying to do the whole discography in one has added like a new layer of psychosis to the process.
I think it's an improvement. I really think that we've stumbled upon something great, which is trying to fit everything into one. Yeah, now, will we do that when we finally get to Chicago? Probably not, because that's a lot. Like 40 Chicago albums or some shit.
Shocking amount.
We got to go through all of the live albums too.
Yeah,
I'll be like 70 when we finally get to that. Prime age to be a full-on Chicago fan. Anyway, so that's it. That's Flotsam and Jetsam, and as we normally do when we get to the end of a discography, we celebrate just like this. 3, 2, 1, yeah!
Yeah! We did it!
All right. Just when you thought it was over.
Over! Just when you thought we were done.
Never more the whipping boy.
I'm gonna let James take that one.
He left the fucking band.
Period. Exclamation point.
I like that noise that he makes. Anyway, okay, cool. Well, this has been cranked and cranked and ranked. Flotsam and Jetsam. Carly Rae Jepsen featuring Gilbert Gottfried. And he doesn't even know. He's gonna get a letter. He'd be like, "Did you know that you were on this unknown podcast?"
Eddie, what did I tell you about volunteering me for shit?
I didn't even know I was still alive. Is he still alive? I really don't.
He's one of those dudes. He's one of those dudes where he has passed.
Oh man, I'm sorry. Rest in peace, Gilbert Gottfried.
He was alive until very recently in the grand scheme of things. April 12th, 2022 was when he passed away. But up until that point, he delivered some of the funniest cameos I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't matter how unhinged it was, he'd fucking say it.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a character. He was like a staple of the comedy world for such a long time. Rest in peace, Gilbert Gottfried. I didn't know that he passed away. I probably did, but I forgot because I'm not like a huge comedy person. But we brought him back. It's been a bonus. The resurrection of Gilbert Gottfried happened here of all places.
He channeled his spirit into me to enhance today's episode of Cranked and Ranked.
I only did that 2 or 3 times, and my voice is already like, all right, so let's get out of here.
I'm in significant pain.
Just go lay down. You've had a rough day so far anyway, so let's not make it any worse. Anyway, so that's it for this episode of Cranked and Ranked. Thank you for watching and listening in the podcast world. For the peanut butter platypuses and aluminium squirrels and Belvedere ball sitters and Christmas dogs. And Carly Rae Jepsen's. No, I'm not going to add that one. That's just
Wasn't there one called Shitheads as well? Have we been forgetting the Shitheads?
Shitheads is an old head thing for my content away from this, but I haven't used that in a long time. I did. I mean, I think. Well, I mean, I still kind of use it because you go to my website, oldheadnetwork.com. That's what it is. And if you sign up for a mailing list, it's called the Shit List for the shitheads. Anyway, okay. Next week, our next episode, whenever that might be, I don't know what we're doing. I don't remember, but I know it's going to be fun. Whatever it's going to be. I mean, we don't have to tell them. They'll just find out when it comes out. But I hope you enjoyed this. You are?
I'm excited for this one.
Okay, good. Well, then I'm sure it'll be amazing. But yeah, thank you for joining us, and we love you. And as usual, well, do you have any parting words first?
Gilbert Jeremy Gottfried, February 28th, 1955 to April 12th, 2022, was an American stand-up comedian and actor. He was known for his exaggerated, shrill voice, strong New York accent, and his edgy, often controversial sense of humor. His new...
Thank you, Wikipedia. Okay, well, that's it. Thank you for listening. And as usual, I'm going to throw it over to Gilbert Gottfried to take us out.
Later, dude!